All right, so let's go ahead and move into immigration. Because this is another situation that, again, Palantir's involved with. Remember, Palantir, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, Donald Trump, they have said that they want to build the wall, but it's going to be the AI biometric surveillance wall that comes with digital IDs and whatnot. Well, we see a lot of what's going on with immigration that's worth paying attention to as well. And the first one that I want to talk about is this. It says some migrants arrested in Trump's immigration crackdown have been released back into the United States. Space constraints and court orders have led ICE to release migrants on monitoring programs after they're arrested. Does any of this sound familiar? It seems like I've been reading this same headline for the past, 10 years now, that this is always the situation. Well, we have to keep releasing them back. We just don't have enough space. Remember the whole outrage of kids in cages that never stopped, that actually happened before Trump and after Trump, but yet only Trump was blamed for it? Yeah, that's kind of interesting how that works. But this is the same situation. This is the same situation. It says the Trump administration aggressively publicized the arrest of more than 8,000 immigrants by federal agents since Inauguration Day, with the promise that those detained would be part of the historic mass deportation. But NBC News has learned that some may have already been released back into the United States on a monitoring program, according to 5 sources familiar with the operations. Since he took office, President Trump has and his allies have promoted immigration operations in cities like Chicago, New York, where agents across federal agencies were called in to increase the number of arrests. But arresting more people inside the United States on allegations of immigration violation means they need to be held somewhere, and significant space constraints in immigration and customs enforcement detention facilities and federal court orders forbidding indefinite detention have forced the agency to release some of those arrested in the roundup rather than hold them until deportation. So again, same old song and dance. We're getting the display and the fist pumps from the conservatives saying they're taking them out, they're shipping them by the boatloads back to where they're coming from, but yet we've got the same situation that we've had for a long time where they're still getting released back under surveillance programs. Again, I've been reading this headline for like 10 years now. Nothing has changed in regards to it. The other thing that I want to bring up is, you guys heard the news that came out that there's about 75,000 children that were just found, but there's been no pictures, no reports of where they're going, no interviews with the parents of the kids having their kids returned, nothing. We just have the report going around 75,000 kids were found. No evidence showing anything regarding that. Did they? If they did, where are they? What's the situation? Why haven't we heard anything about it? I have a lot of questions. It's just a whole bunch of stuff swirling around, but with no proof regarding what's actually happening. Could this be another bigger situation brewing? That's my question, especially since we're now getting stuff regarding this. This is Mexican cartels targeting Border Patrol agents with kamikaze drones, explosives amid Trump crackdown. The warning comes as Trump administration continues to enact tougher border security measures and targets illegal immigrations for deportation. This was from February 3rd. Mexican drug cartels are ordering their members to target U.S. Border Patrol agents with kamikaze drones and other explosives amid a crackdown at the southern border by the Trump administration. An internal memo titled Officer Safety Alert cited social media posts and other sources for warning to federal agents. The New York Post reported agents were reminded to be cognizant of their surroundings and should be wearing their wearing their ballistic armor and utilizing their long firearms. Do you guys remember the war on drugs and the absolute damage that it did to U.S. Citizens' freedoms and rights, and really didn't do anything to drugs, especially since the number one drug cartel in the world is the CIA? Something interesting to think about there. It seems like we've got another situation of that happening. We've got all this effort to build a prison wall, AI biometric surveillance wall. We've got the situation where we've got immigrants that are being apparently captured and re-let back into the United States. And now we've got reports coming out that the drug cartels are about ready to declare war upon the Border Patrol. It seems like there's a buildup for something that's happening right now. Something else that I want to put forward on this. You can see at the bottom, Mexico agrees to deploy 10,000 troops to the U.S. border in exchange for tariff pause. So I want to talk about this as well. It's being taunted, or not taunted, being hawked that there's that Trump put the pressure on Canada and Mexico for to do these border things because of the tariff stuff. So first things first. How many times was Border Patrol being caught cutting fences and allowing illegal immigrants to come through? Just go and look it up. There's reports all over the place. It's been happening for a long time. So just because there's more border agents on the U.S. side doesn't mean that that's going to fix anything. Mexico has had over 10,000 troops deployed at their border since 2021. That was a deal that was set back in 2021, and they've had that there, and we still have the problem. That's nothing has changed in regards to that on the Mexican side or on the Mexico side. The other thing that's coming out is Canada, that there's the deal with Canada that they need to now start doing, border patrols and putting more troops on there and stuff like that. But the problem is that was already in effect in December as well. So let's take a look at this. Trump to pause promised tariffs for 30 days after speaking with Trudeau. PM to anoint fentanyl czar and list Mexican cartels as terrorists. So to get Trump to shelve his punishing tariffs, Trudeau told him Canada is pressing ahead with a previously announced $1.3 billion border security plan. So there wasn't any new deal. We're just going with what was already there. This is straight from Canada's website. From December 17th, 2024, Government of Canada announces its plan to strengthen border security and immigration system. And all the things that were a part of this supposed tariff deal with Trump was already there, except like two things, which really is just virtue signaling. I'll show you why. But detecting and disrupting the fentanyl trade, introducing significant tools for law enforcement, increasing information sharing between Canada and the United States, enhancing operational coordination between Canada and the United States. All these things were part of that supposed deal. But if we go through, it says previously announced $1.3 billion border security plan that introduces reinforcing the 49th parallel with new choppers, technology personnel, stepping up its coordination with American officials. All that stuff was already being put into effect before the deal. Trudeau said, all told, there will be 10,000 frontline. What's up with all the 10,000? It's 10,000 on everything. Kind of interesting. The prime minister also made a series of new commitments. Okay, so this is where everybody said this was the new deal. Okay, let's take a look. Including a promise to appoint a new fentanyl czar. So just take somebody, put the name fentanyl czar title on them, and you're good to go. That means nothing. He promised to list Mexican cartels and top purveyors of fentanyl and other drugs in Canada and the U.S. as terrorists under Canadian law. Okay, I mean, how does that change anything just because they're on a list now? Again, I'm not seeing anything on that. A lot of people are saying you're being nitpicky. I'm not. There needs to be some type of actual movement and not just slapping titles on things and calling it good. Trudeau said Canada is launching a Canada-U.S. joint task force, and that will be tasked with combating organized crime and money laundering. He's kicking in $200 million in funding to get it off the ground. Again, that's all stuff that was listed in that as well. There's really nothing different that's going on. So my whole point, and a lot of people are saying you're being overly critical. I'm not being overly critical. It's just when you have this display of these deals were already in place. First of all, Mexico had theirs since 2021. And now this one that was already announced previously, and now they're just going to slap a title and on somebody and then put a drug cartel on a list. This is theater, in my opinion. This is theater, in my opinion. Nothing has really changed. For what reason? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I have a reason for, or that I know the reason for this, but all I can tell you is something stinks, and I don't know what it is. We've got the announcement of continuity of government. We've got this immigration system with cartels now apparently declaring war on the Border Patrol. And now we've got this display of lockdown border stuff. I don't know. Something stinks for me. But either way, we know that they want to do stronger biometric AI deployment with this. Could this be the excuse for them to do it? Maybe. I think there's something more to it, but I do think that this is a part of it. We've talked about that. Another war on drugs could give them an excuse to implement more things, just like they did the last time. And then what about, again, dealing with the main number one traffickers, drug traffickers, which is the CIA, which again, Trump has already called on the CIA multiple times to increase their foothold and involvement in the United States, which I thought that went against everything MAGA stood for. Something else to think about on that. So just throwing it out there, letting you know. I think personally something stinks. You go and do your own research and come to your own conclusion when it comes to that. How are we doing on time? We got to keep moving. All right, let's go ahead and move into what's going on with the Ukraine situation. Now, if you guys remember, I talked about this before. Direct quote from Trump, he would have the Russia-Ukraine war ended before he even takes office. Everybody always wants to say promises said, promises kept. That was a lie. Not only is that still going on, but now he's talking about increasing more defense for Ukraine. Why? Well, let's take a look at this. He wants a deal with Ukraine's rare earth elements. This has to do with his techno bros, man. I'm telling you, Trump says he wants Ukraine's rare earth elements as a condition of further support. Donald Trump on Monday indicated that he wants to reach an agreement with Ukraine to gain access to the country's rare earth materials as a condition for continuing U.S. support for its war against Russia. I thought he wanted that ended before he even took office. Now, all of a sudden, he's wanting to make a trade to continue it. What's up with that? Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump complained that the U.S. had sent more in military and economic assistance to Ukraine than its European partners, adding, "We're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things." Trump suggested that he's received word from the Ukrainian government that they'd be willing to make a deal to give the U.S. access to the elements critical to the modern high-tech economy. Yes, there's the techno bro stuff. Remember, we got things, Canada has this stuff. Greenland has this stuff. He wants to make deals with all that. Fascinating. And he says, "I want to have security of rare earth," Trump said. "We're putting in hundreds of billions of dollars that they have great rare earth, and I want security of the rare earth, and they're willing to do it." Adding on to that, going back to January 29th, we got this. U.S. transfers 90 Patriot missiles from Israel to Ukraine. That doesn't seem like ending the war to me, and it seems like you're still financing it. This was January 29th. Says the United States has transferred around 90 Patriot air defense interceptors from storage in Israel to Poland for delivery to Ukraine. Sources familiar with the operation told Axios. The transfer comes as part of efforts by the Pentagon to bolster Ukraine's air defense capabilities against Russian attacks on critical infrastructure. This marks the most significant delivery of weapons involving Israel to Ukraine since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion nearly 3 years ago. Despite the plan, Israel initially delayed its decision due to concerns that Russia might retaliate in supplying advanced weaponry to Iran. According to a Ukrainian official, Benjamin Netanyahu refused to engage in discussions about the proposal for weeks. However, Netanyahu reportedly approved the transfer in late September. Again, just a little thing. Russia's full-scale invasion nearly 3 years ago. If Russia wanted Ukraine, it would have been done in a week. This is theater, and we're seeing a lot of reasons why right now. Ding, ding, ding. That makes sense. In preparation for the transfer, U.S. Air Force C-7 cargo planes recently transported the interceptors from an airbase in southern Israel to Chryzov. That was completely bad. Poland, a key logistics hub for military aid to Ukraine, along with the interceptors, additional equipment such as radars will be sent to the U.S. for refurbishment before final delivery to Ukraine. The interceptors are compatible with the Patriot batteries already operational in Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine thing is just a giant hotbed for a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of like the Koof situation where you can't narrow it down to 1, 2, or 3 reasons for it. It's just a laundry list of reasons, and I use laundering for a reason, because I think that's one of the elements too. But there's a whole bunch of reasons for this Ukraine thing. And the fact is both the United States and Russia are involved with what's going on there. Again, if Russia wanted Ukraine, it would have been done in a week. Just use logic. It would have been done. Clearly, there is a bunch of games, a bunch of pieces being moved around the risk board when it comes to this. So, rare earth materials, obviously for technology. Again, you got the techno bros behind Trump: Thiel, Karp, Musk, Schmidt, Altman, Zuckerberg, so on and so forth. Just line them all up. We know who they are. All that would certainly play a part with that. Plus, we've got the broken promise of immediately ending the war. That was a lie, another one. And they're actually continuing to supply. Now, with all that, you got the immigration stuff, you got this situation, you got all the stuff going on. I did come across this, which I think is pretty interesting, regarding the United States Army. It says, Army's new pilot program separates recruiters and processors. The pilot program is designed to shift administrative tasks to processing teams, which will allow recruiters to focus on marketing the military service. Buried in this report from January 27th was something pretty interesting. After falling short of its recruitment targets for years, the Army managed to bring in enough soldiers in 2024, but just barely. The service, however, bumped up its recruiting goals by thousands in 2025. When Trump comes in, the plan is to onboard 61,000 new soldiers and 10,000 people into the delayed entry program this year. And the Army seems to be well positioned to meet its recruitment targets once again in 2025. Current projections indicate that service will have about 36,800 recruits by February. Now, why am I bringing this up? We talked about the continuity of government, about being a military dictatorship. I have said that I believe that that's what Trump is going to do. He's going to create this dictatorship. And the fact that he comes in is going to spike military volunteer. Why? Because they want to serve under him. And so I believe that what we're seeing now could, I'm not saying is, so don't take that out of context, could be the spike where, similar to Nazi Germany when Hitler took over, where there was a massive spike in military recruitment because all the guys adored Hitler and wanted to serve under him and signed up for the army. Seems we have another spike like that happening now. Could be. Seems like. Not saying is, but that is pretty fancy, or it tickles my fancy that that's buried there in regards to this, saying that they're well on pace to do everything that they need to in that situation.